In the outskirts of a small, forgotten town, Samuel, Carl, and I embarked on an adventure that would forever remain etched in our memories. We had long been fascinated by tales of the supernatural and the unexplained, and our latest curiosity led us to an old, abandoned circus on the edge of the town. The circus, once a place of joy and laughter, had been left to decay for decades, its bright colors faded and its tents tattered. The day was bright and sunny, a stark contrast to the eerie destination we had chosen. We arrived at the circus grounds in the early afternoon, our spirits high with excitement and anticipation. The entrance, once grand and inviting, was now a skeletal archway adorned with peeling paint and rusted iron. We stepped through, our footsteps crunching on the overgrown grass and gravel, and entered a world frozen in time. The main tent loomed ahead of us, its faded stripes barely visible beneath layers of grime and dust. Nearby, the remains of carnival rides and concession stands stood like relics of a bygone era. The Ferris wheel, once the centerpiece of the circus, was now a rusted giant, its seat swaying gently in the breeze. We explored the grounds with a mixture of awe and unease, our imaginations running wild with thoughts of the past and the ghosts that might linger in such a place. As the afternoon wore on, we found ourselves drawn to an old house situated near the back of the circus grounds. It was a small, dilapidated structure, its windows boarded up and its roof sagging with age. Rumors had it that the house was haunted, a place where circus performers once lived and where their restless spirits now roamed. Intrigued by the stories, we decided to spend the night there, hoping to experience something truly supernatural. We made our way inside, pushing open the creaking door and stepping into the musty interior. The house was filled with remnants of its former occupants' faded photographs, broken furniture, and dusty costumes. We set up our sleeping bags in the living room, clearing away the debris to make room. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the broken windows, we lit a few candles and settled in for the night. The atmosphere was both thrilling and unsettling. We told ghost stories, each one more terrifying than the last, trying to outdo each other and heighten the sense of fear. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, and every creak of the house seemed to amplify our anxiety. But midnight approached, and the air grew colder, as if the spirits of the house were making their presence known. As we sat there, wrapped in the eerie silence, a strange sound suddenly pierced the stillness. It came from the direction of the old circus tent, a low, mournful moan that sent chills down our spines. We exchanged uneasy glances, our bravado from earlier in the evening quickly dissipating. The sound repeated, louder this time, echoing through the night and drawing us toward the source. We grabbed our flashlights and ventured outside, the cold night air biting at our skin. The circus grounds, which had seemed almost whimsical in the daylight, now took on a more sinister appearance. The shadows were deeper, and the rusted metal of the rides and stalls seemed to glint menacingly in the moonlight. We made our way toward the main tent, our footsteps hesitant and our hearts pounding. The tent's entrance flapped in the breeze, a gaping maw that seemed to beckon us inside. We hesitated for a moment, then stepped through, our flashlights casting narrow beams of light that barely penetrated the darkness. The interior was vast and empty, the once vibrant decorations now faded and covered in a thick layer of dust. The air was thick with the scent of decay and neglect, and every sound seemed to echo endlessly. As we explored the tent, we found ourselves drawn to the center, where a large circular stage stood. The wooden planks were cracked and splintered, and the remains of old props and equipment lay scattered around. It was then that we noticed something strange, a figure standing in the shadows, just beyond the reach of our flashlights. It was tall and thin, its features obscured by the darkness. We froze, our breath catching in our throats. The figure remained still, watching us with an unnerving intensity. Slowly it began to move, gliding across the stage with an unnatural grace. Our flashlights flickered and dimmed, as if the very presence of the figure was sapping their power. Panic set in, and we stumbled backward, our hearts racing as we tried to make sense of what we were seeing. The figure stopped at the edge of the stage, its form becoming clearer in the dim light. It was a clown, its face painted in grotesque, exaggerated features. The makeup was smeared and cracked, giving it a nightmarish appearance. It raised a hand, beckoning us closer, and we felt an overwhelming sense of dread. We turned and ran, our footsteps pounding on the ground as we fled the tent. The sound of our breathing was loud in our ears, and the darkness seemed to close in around us. We didn't stop until we reached the old house, slamming the door behind us and collapsing onto the floor. Our minds raced with questions and fears, and we struggled to make sense of what we had just experienced. The house, which had seemed merely creepy before, now felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in, and the shadows grew darker. We huddled together, trying to calm our racing hearts and figure out what to do next. The candles flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. In the silence, we heard the sound again, the low, mournful moan from the circus tent. It was closer this time, as if the source of the sound was moving toward us. We listened in terror as the sound grew louder, accompanied by the faint creak of footsteps on the wooden floorboards of the house. We held our breath, the darkness pressing in on us from all sides. The footsteps drew closer, slow and deliberate, each one echoing through the silent house. We could feel the presence of something malevolent, something that had been waiting for us. The door to the living room creaked open, and a cold draft swept through the room. We could see nothing in the darkness, but we could feel the presence drawing nearer. The air grew colder, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. We knew we were not alone. Suddenly, a cold hand brushed against my shoulder, and I stifled a scream. I could feel the icy fingers gripping my skin, their touch sending waves of terror through my body. The hand tightened, and I felt a pull, as if something was trying to drag me into the darkness. I struggled, my heart pounding in my chest, and managed to break free. I scrambled to my feet, grabbing Samuel and Carl and urging them to run. We stumbled through the dark house, our hands outstretched to feel our way. But the sense of being chased was overwhelming, and the cold presence seemed to follow us with relentless determination. We burst out of the house and into the night, the cold air hitting us like a wall. The moon was high in the sky, casting a pale light over the circus grounds. We ran without looking back, driven by pure fear and the need to escape. As we reached the edge of the circus grounds, we paused to catch our breath and gather our thoughts. The old house and the circus tent loomed behind us, their dark shapes silhouetted against the night sky. We knew we couldn't stay there, that we had to leave and never return. We made our way back to the town, our steps quick and our hearts still racing. The sense of dread lingered, and we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The town was quiet, its streets empty and its buildings dark. We reached the safety of Samuel's house and collapsed inside, locking the doors and windows behind us. We spent the rest of the night huddled together, too afraid to sleep. The events of the evening replayed in our minds, each detail more terrifying than the last. We knew we had encountered something beyond our understanding, something that defied explanation. In the days that followed, we tried to put the experience behind us, but it lingered in our minds like a dark shadow. The old circus and the haunted house became the stuff of local legend, a cautionary tale told around campfires and whispered in hushed tones. We never spoke of it again, but the memory of that night haunted us, a reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unknown. The old circus grounds remained abandoned, a place of forgotten dreams and lingering spirits. And though we had escaped, a part of us would always be trapped there, forever linked to the darkness that dwelled within.